CCLA Investment Management's Chief Investment Officer is with us, James Bevan. Welcome to On the Move. Very good to see you as always. And you initially had a price target of actually seeing gains for BP of some 20%. Do you still expect those sorts of gains despite
Absolutely.
today's numbers?
I think we need to separate out the very short-term disappointments that BP clearly has delivered to the market. It's disappointing on downstream and on upstream. It couldn't really have done much worse today. However, if you said, look, what is the long-term prospect for BP? It's very clear that they are halfway through a strategic reprogramming of the entire company. That was always going to be a very difficult period for them to deliver better numbers. The board has signalled real confidence in the future by giving the 8 cents of dividend, 5 pence a share. And I think investors ought to cheer that on the basis that it was only 7 cents last quarter, 8 cents this quarter. The board is beginning to say, look, guys, we are going to deliver. The real challenge, I think, is at what point is the Department of Justice and the state's problem going to be washed away? Because the shares aren't going to rise materially till that news is out of the way, until that's resolved. I think it's excellent news that BP has, in effect, made an agreement with most of the plaintiffs, so it's only the US government to go. Now, what will be the outcome? I don't know. The sum of the parts valuation of BP, if you said, look, wave aside all the legal issues, what's it really worth? It's worth, I think, over £6. I don't think that's a legitimate price target. I think a price target around about £5.35 looks to be the right medium.
So about 20% higher than it is now.
As a medium-term price target, absolutely.
Where, therefore, do you think the legal process is going? You say that is still weighing on BP overall. They're still sticking to their $37 billion total cost. Do you think that seems reasonable?
I absolutely think it's reasonable. The big unknown, of course, is at what point does the US government say, look, guys, actually, we're not satisfied, this is nearly sufficient, we're going to punish you because actually you've done things that are really naughty. Now, there's no hint that that's going to happen, but until we get the clarity, the transparency of the process, that is going to remain as a real challenge.
And clearly, actually, some challenges ahead in the second quarter because BP is still signalling that they're going to see costs continuing to rise, they're going to see production continuing to fall. Is that a concern of yours for the second quarter? When do you think they'll start being able to come out of this restructuring process?
It's not a concern at all, because strategically we've always known that BP was going to go through a process of shrinkage. We knew it had asset sales. It flagged these up a long while ago, and therefore the numbers we've seen today are most certainly disappointing. We can't get away from the fact that we were looking for 5 billion, they came in 4.8. It's a bad set of numbers, but this is part of a journey, and the next quarter is a continuing part of that journey. I don't think, therefore, we should be judging BP by the near-term results. We should be looking at the long-term future, and I still think that's rosy.
And in terms of oil prices, they're still looking rosy on BP's point of view, is still above $100 a barrel. But do you think, when will that start to affect the profit of BP? If we're seeing profit being disappointing so far, how can they start to realise analyst expectations?
That's a really good, interesting challenge. I mean, our £6 plus sum of the parts is based on an assumed long-term price target for oil of $95 a barrel, a long way below the current price. And I think that's where the oil price will begin to settle. And I think the BP is very clear that it does not intend to take short-term advantage of spikes in the oil price in order to try and massage up profits, because actually that would be extremely bad news.
So if I was sitting today umming and ahhing whether to buy BP or not to, would you advise to buy BP on the fact that it's fallen some little way today, but eventually it will recover?
Well, interestingly, I don't think the sentiment towards BP will turn distinctly positive until we get the Department of Justice news out of the way. And therefore, I would say that if you were looking at BP, keep a very beady eye on the news flow and be ready to buy at the bottom. But it's very difficult to see a significant near-term rally until the bad news is done.
James Bevan, wonderful to have you on the programme, and all your views, long-term buy seemingly for BP, but keeping a beady eye on the stock price and, of course, the legal news. James Bevan, Chief Investment Officer at CCLA Investment Management.